Hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Gold. I've recently decided I'm going to finally read the entirety of Geoff John's Green Lantern run, which is a run that I read bits and pieces of as it was coming out, but never the entire thing. So I started the other night with Green Lantern Rebirth and Green Lantern Corps Recharge, and I'm about, I think, 10 issues in right now to the main series of the Green Lantern series. I don't know if I'm going to go back and read the Green Lantern Corps that's concurrent with it, other than the ones that are necessary for reading, like the Sinestro War and other stories that require that you read both titles. But we'll see as I go along. Either way, I want to say that starting out, I do actually really like the Green Lantern Rebirth story. I think it does very well with like connecting the Green Lantern lore and making it make sense, but at the same time, there's a couple problems with Parallax, as we know him to be an emotional entity today, which is that there's no real like foregrounding or foreshadowing of his existence before this point, so it feels like a major change to the Green Lantern mythos. And additionally, it does kind of take away some of Hal Jordan's agency as it was predicated in the comics at that point, because he did break in the comics. No one knew that he was being possessed by a thing. Not even him. He knew that, and that's addressed in the story because it is this big change to the comics. So, on the one hand, it looks like we're adding new stuff to the lore, and it does make sense within the lore and within like how the Manhunters were established as this secret evil thing that the Guardians had done. So this makes sense within that kind of framework, but at the same time, it takes away the agency of a character who really did go through some character growth in a negative direction, and is not something we usually like to think about our heroes, but it does happen from time to time that heroes break bad, and we did have someone take up the mantle and do a good job with it. And with Green Lantern Rebirth, unfortunately, Kyle loses the spotlight in that sense in the return for Hal Jordan, in which case I like Hal Jordan, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, Kyle could have continued to be the main Green Lantern, but ever since Rebirth, Hal has been the Green Lantern once again, which, again, it's not a problem because most of the stories involving Hal Jordan are still good stories. I like Hal Jordan as a Green Lantern. There's no problem there. I just still have a fondness in my heart for Kyle as the main Green Lantern. But that being said, I didn't care as much for Green Lantern Recharge. Not that it's a bad story by any means. Patrick Gleason's art is always great to read. The story just, I didn't think, was quite as entertaining as Green Lantern Rebirth was. And the main series so far, it's a good book right now. I have no real problems with it. We're doing like short little stories that are either 1 or 2 issues. I like this momentum. I know we're about to hit into the point where we're about to like really start building in on the lore that Geoff John's era on the Green Lantern is really known for, because Acrillo just got his first Sinestro ring, maybe an issue or 2 ago from where I'm reading. So I know we're about to really launch into the Sinestro Corps War. But I also want to say that I think it's kind of weird and difficult for creatives at DC sometimes, because there's always some kind of gimmick going on, and they have to kind of like derail a story or like make a weird turn and try to continue their story from there, because like we're 6 issues into the main series and then all of a sudden issue 7 jumps 1 year into the future, and that's like, what? If you're a new reader just being like, oh, I've been liking these comics, and you don't know anything about Infinite Crisis or 52, and you're just reading that, and you're like, why are we jumping a year forward, kind of thing. I think that would be kind of weird if you were new at that point trying to read Green Lantern comics. And just, yeah, I always think it's odd when DC writers have to like do that kind of weird gimmick, whatever the gimmick is. But yeah, overall, I'm enjoying it so far, and I'll let you know how I'm feeling as the run continues.